How are you, Mr. Masnbridge?
I'm good, Nader. Just call me Peter and don't get too excited.
Sounds great, Peter. I want to thank you so much for calling in. This is a true pleasure. Now,
I'm happy to do it.
Awesome. Peter, I must say I find your story absolutely phenomenal. Do you mind providing us with a little insight on how your career began at the CBC?
Well, I mean, it's a little odd. It's different. I imagine the most broadcasting careers. When I was going to school, I never thought about broadcasting. When I got out of school, I joined the Navy. Broadcasting, journalism never entered my mind. I was in the Navy for a couple of years. It didn't work out too well, but I had a good time, which was part of the reason it didn't work out too well. I ended up working for a small airline in northern Manitoba, and one day, and I was doing all kinds of odd jobs. I was 19, 20 years old. I was loading aircraft, carrying baggage, fueling, you name it. Whatever came up, I helped out. And one day they had me announce the flight over the PA system. Somebody heard my voice. Next thing I knew, I was working for CBC Radio in Churchill, Manitoba. And that's how it started back in 1968. And then I just worked my way up through the news system as a reporter for 20 years. And then for the last 25 years, I've been an anchor.
That is absolutely amazing. Now, sir, do you feel like the event was maybe destiny? I mean, being recruited into the CBC, that moment, it played a pivotal role in your life. Would you say that it was just sheer luck, or a little more than that?
It was luck.
Luck.
Now, Nader, first of all, you got to stop calling me sir, because I really feel uncomfortable with it. Just call me Peter. But luck does play a role, and it's often how you take advantage of it when it's good luck. And when things kind of broke for me in my direction, I took advantage of it. It was a different era. The 60s was before the explosion in journalism, especially broadcast journalism. And the only reason I got that opportunity in Churchill was nobody else wanted it.
Right.
So I was very lucky. It just happened at the right time. If it had been 10 years later, there would have been 100 kids from journalism schools lined up wanting that job. So, I was lucky. But, luck happens to everybody in some degree, and it's how you take advantage of it when it happens.
Absolutely. Now, after being recruited, did you feel like you had to live up to an expectation?
Yeah, mine. I'd had opportunities in my life at that point through school, in the Navy, and those were opportunities I didn't handle very well. This was another opportunity, and I felt obligated to take advantage of it and to work as hard as I could to make a go of it. I mean, I was up against it. I mean, most of the people in the business at that time had far more experience than I did. And they kind of looked down on me initially as somebody with no experience, no background in journalism, and how could a person like that ever expect to get started? Well, as a result, when you're in that position, you got to work twice as hard as everybody else. So you put a lot of pressure on yourself, and I certainly did that. And in many ways, I'm still the same.
Right, now you speak of pressure and you seem rather passionate. Did this pressure ever make you a bit nervous when you first started?
Not beyond what I think anybody would feel. I was extremely fortunate for the opportunity that was in front of me, and I worked hard to take advantage as best I could of it, to learn from those who could teach me, spend hours and hours and hours, usually on my own time, trying to advance my abilities. And, in the end, that all worked out. You get a bit of nervous energy around any big broadcast. That's good. I think that's great to have. When you don't have that, you've probably been around too long.
Wow, that's interesting. I like your take. Peter, would you say that nervous energy is what empowers you?
Sometimes. I mean, what I find it does with me is it makes me understand how important it is, the kind of work that we do as journalists, and that you should be firing on all cylinders when you're getting onto air.
Right. Now, if you don't mind me asking, I've noticed that you have the ability to maintain such calmness through, situations that are rather tense, especially during interviews, and it seems like a different breed of calm to me. How do you do this, Peter?
Well, listen, first of all, I've been doing it for a long time, so that helps. You become very relaxed in your approach, or at least visually you're relaxed. I mean, I get geared up for every assignment that I do, and I focus on it, I study for it, I prep for it, and so while it may look one way on the air, that doesn't necessarily mean that's the way it is.
Absolutely.
But, I'm a lot more comfortable in my skin than I was in the first years of my career, and that's only natural. You'd find that with anybody who's been around this long.
Right, so is what you're usually feeling different from what the audience sees?
At times, it all depends on what the issue is. I mean, not every interview is the end of the world.
Yeah, correct.
I love to do interviews where they're purely conversational, where you're just trying to understand a person's role in their career, in our lives.
Now, Peter, just curious, have you ever had a role model throughout your career?
Sure, I've always had role models. From the earliest days, Walter Cronkite was a broadcast hero for me. Knowlton Nash was a broadcast hero for me. There have been lots of people all along. There still are. Just because I'm older doesn't mean I'm doing heroes in our business. Adrienne Arsenault, one of our reporters, I'm totally in awe of what she's able to do. And I love talking to her about the way she does her work. So, you never lose the appreciation of others' work and the ability to learn from it.
I really enjoy the takes on your learning strategies. Now, speaking of role models and themselves, you're somebody who I really look up to, so what should I do as a grade 11 student who's aspiring to a career in broadcast?
Well, you're doing the right thing for starters. You've got your foot in the door at a station that's giving you airtime. What I tell young students who are, at the same point in their careers as you are, some of them a few more years along the way than you are, is, think big, be ambitious. You want my job? That's a good thing.
Yep.
You should have that dream. But think big, but be prepared to start small, and you're going to be better for it. The things you're learning where you are right now will last you a lifetime. The things I learned in, working at the station in Churchill, Manitoba, which was a lot smaller than the one you're working at, I still remember today. And I learned a lot from that. I got the experience of doing lots of different things within the broadcast family, and I got to appreciate everybody's role in what is eventually a program.
That's very interesting, Peter. Now, would you say that there's a cap on how different one can be? Or is it... What I'm trying to ask here is there a limit to how different you can be in Canadian broadcast?
I don't think there's a limit on that. I mean, you want to listen. You want to be a journalist. You got to be responsible for what it is you do and the storytelling that you conduct. The issue that I'm talking about is trying to stand out and stand apart from others in the way you do your storytelling. That obviously you've got to abide by certain principles in the way you tell stories. But that doesn't mean you've all got to be the same. You want people to say, wow, I'm not going to forget that guy. I like the way he tells stories.
Absolutely. And now, how long has it taken you to develop your approach and your strategy in telling stories?
Well, I've been in the business 46 years and I'm still learning, so there you go.
Right, so learning never ceases, you'd say.
It doesn't, because technology never ceases, and you're always adapting to deal with the new ways of doing things.
Absolutely. And when you say that it gets harder or easier to adapt as time goes on?
Well, I guess it depends on your mood in the day.
Right. It all depends on the day.
It's here, but sometimes, you resist change. And you got to fight that notion because, there's a lot of good about change. And so you're going to see how you fit in personally into the changes that are available to you.
Thank you for that. I have something to confess. I feel like my technique in broadcast is very different than that of other people. And I notice that I get, maybe not verbal put-downs for it, but I do get stares, I do get these little subtle hints that really make me feel uneasy. And I don't understand it, because it's like, although I want to be myself from one side, it's really hard for me, because I feel like there's something weighing on me. Now, how do I escape that? Does it come with experience and practice, or is there another way?
It comes with time, but listen, Nader, you don't want to be somebody else, you want to be you, okay? You don't be a phony. There's lots of phonies in this business and they don't last. You want to be you.
Thank you. If you don't mind me asking, Peter, where do you see yourself in the near future?
Where do I see myself?
Yes.
Well, I'm in a job I like. I just signed a new contract, so I guess I'll be here for a little while longer yet.
Sounds great. I'm looking forward to it. Now, is there anything you'd like to leave our audience with?
Just my thanks for their patience and their loyalty over the years, and their interest in what we do, all of us as journalists, no matter who we work for. We consider ourselves a fundamental pillar of democracy, free and open media, and there are pressures in doing that job properly. And we like to hear from the public when they think we're not performing well enough, and believe me, we hear from them.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It's been great.
Okay, Nader, good luck in your career.
Thanks, Peter. You too.